Welcome to Kevin and Brian's Horror Bulletin podcast, recorded live for the Vampire's Crypt, where each week we cover the latest horror news, shorts, a classic Universal horror film, and 2 creature feature reviews.
This week after the news, we'll cover the Universal Studios Murders in the Rue Morgue from 1932, the classic Cannibal Holocaust from 1980, and a discussion of a short film called Turnaround, and the modern horror film, The Autopsy of Jane Doe from 2016. I'd give that one a thumbs up, yeah.
Turn up the volume and lean in close. Here we go. A shout out this week to one of our favorite horror movie clowns, Johnny Lee Johns, a.k.a. Captain Spaulding, a.k.a. Cutter, turned 101 as of his fictional birthday on April 13th, being born in 1918. Time flies when you're making mayhem. Fans have put together a great chronology of the Rob Zombie movie Anti-Hero, starting with his birth in El Paso, Texas, up to the events leading to his appearance in House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. Check out the link in the show notes for that.
But there's good news.
There is good news.
Sig. We should decide on who's going to actually say these things.
The good news is that actor Sid Haig is only 80 and still working, with a third appearance of the Captain in 3 from Hell to be released in 2019. I remember him in kids' TV shows from the 70s. He was like a space pirate or something like that, if I remember correctly.
He's come a long way.
Not so far, really. So what's second?
Black Summer has arrived a little ahead of the actual summer. A new zombie series has just premiered with the whole season 1 release on April 11th on Netflix. It's set in the early days of a zombie apocalypse, where a group of strangers are brought together trying to survive. This sounds a little bit familiar.
It does.
But it's getting really good critical reviews.
The group faces challenges.
Yeah. I keep reading people who have seen it who say, this is really good, it's really good. And it's not the slow, lumbering zombie type. It's the fast rage zombies. There is a preview, and it does look really good.
You know, that's always been the problem with zombies. If they're slow Night of the Living Dead zombies, they're easy to kill. They're easy.
Generally,
unless you're stupid and are running through the forest, falling down every 5 minutes in the dark, you're going to get away from them.
These you don't get away from.
Fast-moving zombies are a lot tougher.
Yeah, scarier in a way. Yeah. But anyway, check that one out. There's a trailer, and we got a link to the trailer for you.
Third?
What else?
Third, the first teaser of American Horror Story Season 9 has been released with only hints of what it might be about. The theme this time around is 1984, and the trailer certainly gives a Friday the 13th vibe, with a young lady being chased through the woods by a hooded and shadowy figure. She takes shelter in a wooden structure, and a huge knife plunges through the door she's leaning against. Mm-hmm. Details are pretty scant at this point. Evan Peters is not going to be returning this season. Emma Roberts and Gus Kenworthy are sure things. Who's Gus Kenworthy?
An actor.
Oh, he wasn't in the previous seasons.
Done some stuff. No, I think he's new to the series.
We'll keep an eye out for more information on this one, and we'll let you know. Be sure to watch in the fall, 2019.
By 1984, we don't mean the George Orwell dystopian.
We don't think we mean that yet.
I don't think so. No, it's more of a 1984 horror movie.
Does look that way.
Yeah, gives that vibe. We'll see.
Yeah. What's next?
I just hope that Jessica Lange's in it. That's all I ask.
I think she may have given it up. It's been a few years.
Yeah, she was in the last one. She was in Apocalypse. She was.
What was she?
The same character. The mom, the house mom, the ghost house mom from the same character as the original.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah. Not in every episode, though.
No, toward the end, yeah. And you've wondered, in a battle of Jason Voorhees versus Michael Myers, who would win?
The Battle of the Masks.
Well, somebody took that thought experiment and went with it and made a film. It's about a half an hour long on YouTube. They duke it out. Or stab it out. It's really, for a low-budget film, it's really well made.
It's
Yeah,
about a
it's
half
really-
hour. It's really good.
Really professional
Yeah.
looking, and
The makeup and the masks,
yeah,
they're good.
yeah, good effects. Yeah, one worth checking out for sure.
Well, lastly, Variety reports that Orlando Jones will be starring in an upcoming movie we're excited about. Sort of a movie within a movie, when a horror movie director becomes haunted by creatures from his own films while recovering from brain surgery. Is it real or is it a hallucination?
Yeah, how much of it is real?
Production is expected to take place this summer, directed by Anthony O'Brien. It'll also feature Stephen Swaddling and Prakash Armitage. No doubt more casting details and a trailer will be coming soon.
Orlando Jones is a good actor. I like his work.
I haven't seen him in anything since Sleepy Hollow.
Yeah, he's in that. Yeah, actually, he's in American Gods. He's Mr.
Oh, that's right.
Mr. Nancy.
That ought to be coming back real soon now, shouldn't it?
Yeah, season 2.
Yeah.
You know what my favorite role of his was, though? And it was a small role in The Time Machine. The Time Machine remake.
Mm-hmm. What was he?
He was the AI. The computer.
Don't remember that.
Yeah, basically it was he traveled to the future and stopped, and there was a worldwide network of AI that basically knew everything, and he was a holographic representation that appeared as the computer.
Huh. Okay.
And then when he flies way, way into the future, there's like one surviving module thousands of years later, and he's still around. And,
very neat.
yeah, small role, but very cool. Yeah.
Speaking of small things, have we watched any short movies this week? Shorter than they should have been.
Yeah, we did. Like Murder in the Rue Morgue, for
Yeah.
instance.
Universal horror movie, 1932,
Yeah.
Murders in the Rue Morgue, based on the Edgar Allan Poe story.
Loosely based on. There's a murder. There's a woman stuffed up the chimney. And a gorilla chimpanzee thing.
Yeah, this was directed by Robert Florey. Black and white, not silent anymore. We're past that.
Not Universal Studios' best work.
Starring Bela Lugosi, you know, Dracula himself.
Yeah.
Along with Sidney Fox, Leon Ames, and a runtime of 61 minutes.
It was originally 80-some, and it was too graphic and too scary, and so they cut it.
I wonder how graphic and scary and just bad the cuts were.
By our standards, it probably wasn't that graphic or scary, but this is 1932. Wow. They were more sensitive back then.
Okay, well, this one takes place in 1845 in France at a circus. It's got dancing girls and American Indians, Redskins, they call them. And, of course, Eric the Gorilla.
Incorrect.
Huh?
Politically incorrect.
Shows. Back then,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And, of course, Eric the Gorilla, presented by Dr. Miracle. Miracle, spelled with a K.
Miracle.
Miracle.
Yeah, they pronounced it Miracle.
Yeah. None of the audience has ever seen a gorilla. This takes place in 1854, by the way. This is kind of important. Mm-hmm. He claims that he can speak to the ape, and he sort of explains evolution to the audience.
And they doubt it. They don't believe in evolution. This was before Origin of the Species.
Yeah, Charles Darwin wrote Origin of the Species in 1859. This takes place 15 years before that. So naturally none of them had heard of it. It hadn't been invented yet. Mm-hmm. So we realize that Dr. Miracle is way ahead of his time, at least in the theory of things. Sort of.
Yeah.
So the audience doesn't approve of the idea of evolution, or whatever he wants to call it, but Miracle insists that he can prove the theory. Eric the gorilla will mix his blood with a human woman.
And this will prove that evolution is real, somehow. Yeah.
Dr. Miracle injects young women with ape blood. He follows Camille and Dupin home, but kidnaps a woman off the street instead. And she very quickly dies as a result.
Yeah, all these women's bodies keep turning up in the river because he's got a convenient trap door, too. It's like, he tells his henchman, take care of this. And it's like 2 steps and plop.
She's tied up on one of those big cross things, and he cuts the rope, pulls the trap door out from under her.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
that was easy.
Couldn't be better for that kind
of work. They have a
work.
system set up for this. They've been doing it a while.
Okay, Dupin, who is a medical student, arrives at the morgue to investigate the now 3 deaths.
See, in the original story, it was a closed room murder mystery. And Dupin, who's a medical student here, was actually a detective.
The first literary detective.
First literary detective. Very, very reminiscent of Sherlock Holmes. With an impossible case. There's two women murdered in a locked room that nobody could have gotten out of, and one is stuffed up the chimney. But it turns out it was a trained ape that a sailor had sent on the job.
So let me list the points from that story that have something to do with this story. There's an ape.
There's an ape.
Okay.
And some character names are the same. And it takes place in France.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, all these dead people have the same needle marks. He obtains a blood sample, and they all died from the same foreign substance being injected into their bodies. Eventually, Miracle kidnaps Camille, and Dupin leaves the police right to him. Before they can break in, Eric the gorilla kills Miracle for no particular reason.
Because he liked the girl. He was sweet on Camille.
Wouldn't he like her better if she was like half gorilla or something, which was maybe the plan?
I don't know. He was confused, thought he was a person. He'd been hanging around people too long.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah. Then Eric carries Camille up onto the roof. Dupin follows Eric and shoots him, and Eric falls to his death. Boom. Mm-hmm. King Kong came out 1 year later, by the way. Mm-hmm. They had that first here.
And there was a Mighty Joe Young and...
Those, I think those came after King Kong.
The ape or something.
Lots of killer apes.
Yeah.
I mean, back in the early 1900s, apes were a foreign, strange, exotic thing.
Well, and so much so that 1932, I guess, the audience knowledge, he was an ape. Okay. And every long shot was obviously a guy in an ape suit, gorilla suit. All the close-up shots were a chimpanzee baring its teeth and shrieking.
Now, if you've ever seen Planet of the Apes, you know the difference. Gorillas are soldiers, chimpanzees are scientists. They don't look that much alike. But if it's a guy in a monkey suit and a real monkey, you can tell the difference.
Yeah.
Okay, so my commentary on this is Bela Lugosi looks interesting and very different with the curly hair and a unibrow.
Unibrow, yeah.
Oh, it's some unibrow.
One big bushy eyebrow.
And he's got a lot more to do here than he did in Dracula. But he still sounds exactly like Dracula.
Same accent.
If it was a fake accent, he did it again. I think he must just talk that way. So the filming of the ape alternates between a real chimpanzee and a man in a monkey suit, which looks really cheesy. Miracle has a nice workshop, and it has a great dead body disposal. We noticed the same things.
Yes.
So the film was timed to be 80-plus minutes, but so many violent scenes were cut out that a runtime was only 61 minutes. Now, I thought quality-wise, this movie was much more well-preserved than the previous Universal films.
Well, the black and white was very sharp, very clear.
Very clear,
noticeably
sharp,
improved.
and sounds great.
Yes.
On the other hand, the plot is pretty weak, it's very short, and it isn't at all related to the original Poe story.
Yeah.
Worst of all is a drawn-out scene involving the police questioning people.
Oh, yeah.
It's all done for comic relief, and the police are the stupidest police that have ever been filmed.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. It's a Universal film, and if you want to see them all, you gotta see it. But
can't recommend it.
It's it's kind of bad.
Yeah.
It's kind of bad.
Only if you want to collect the whole set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of bad, we also saw Cannibal Holocaust from 1980. Directed by Rutgers Deodato and stars Robert Carmen, Francesca Ciardi, and Perry Piccanin. I probably mangled that name. 1 hour. It was 1 hour and 36 minutes.
Unrated.
I noticed that. I imagine not.
Because of the gore and nudity. But boy,
yeah, we saw this.
I guess it's a classic.
I guess it's something.
Considered to be the goriest film ever made by the critical community.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah, it's got a lot of gore. But just some of the scenes were like, why are we watching this gore?
You ever seen
gore for the sake of gore?
If you've ever seen Faces of Death, it's a documentary that basically exists to show pictures of actual dead bodies. It's death porn, basically. Faces of Death.
Now, supposedly in this...
Some of the
all
later ones
animal
aren't even
deaths
real.
were real.
This one is something along the same lines.
The animal deaths were real. For a while, they actually thought the human deaths were real.
Some of the human deaths in here were real. They used actual film of some actual executions.
Because it was a documentary about documentary makers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
found footage film.
So what makes this film interesting, if you want to call it interesting, is that a lot of it was real, a lot of it was fake. You don't know which is which. It's realistic enough you can't tell. It's hard to tell.
Most of the time.
So anyway, the credits roll over peaceful and beautiful jungle scenery, all shot from a helicopter. Happy light music plays.
And I think the message here is that nature is wonderful and people suck. I think was the underlying message throughout it, because it's so idyllic and so beautiful, except for when there's
nobody
people
dies
involved.
From the actual jungle.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the snake guy did. Okay, so things go downhill quickly. A reporter comes on and he explains about these 4 filmmakers who went to the Green Inferno, an Amazon jungle outpost, and never returned.
They have the world's largest bookstore down there, you know.
Not that Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Much of the rest is shown as found footage and documentary footage as we try to learn what happened to the foursome. Professor Harold Moore arrives on a plane, planning an expedition to rescue the missing 4 filmmakers.
Or at least find out what happened to them.
It's not long before they find the first skeleton, and soon after we find out that the rescue party is stuck between 2 warring tribes of cannibals. Eventually, the missing filmmakers are tracked down, and their footage is reviewed by the professor.
And the professor is stumped, because these are warring cannibals, but they didn't attack them. And the professor understands enough that they wouldn't attack outsiders without a good reason. He does his little
translation stuff, and he trades with them, and he pantomimes.
He works it out with them, and they wouldn't just blatantly kill somebody that came into the village without good reason, not from a rival tribe. So the professor's like, what did these people do to these villagers to...
So he goes through their footage.
Well,
they're planning on making a big feature documentary using this footage, and the film company calls him in to review it, edit it, narrate it, and all that kind of stuff.
Since he's the one that found it, and he understands these people that living out in the jungle.
So Cannibal Holocaust is like 2 films in one. The first part is the professor exploring and researching what happened to the first team, and then the found footage of the first team. The professor's story is a little violent and has a little gore, but it's not too over the top. It's like a lot like watching a real nature documentary. If this was all a true story, yeah, you'd believe it.
National Geographic expedition.
The found footage is, well, that's where things start getting a little over the top.
Oh,
and a lot of it is completely illogical and pointless.
Yeah, and it builds, and you find out what horrible people these 4 documentary filmmakers were. But there's scenes like the killing of the turtle. You think, well, they're going to kill a turtle for meat. Like, okay, people eat meat, but it's like a 10-minute scene of them butchering a turtle.
A real large,
a real
one
turtle.
Of those big
this was
guys.
One of the real animal deaths but it just went on, and what's the point of this? Okay, it's gross and it's gross.
And they kill a pig, and then they rape a native girl, and it's all very graphic, it's all very violent, and it's all kind of unnecessary.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, there's a lot of real jungle shots and jungle scenery here, and a lot of it is very good scenery.
Yeah.
Overall, the attention to detail and the realism of everything is one of the most distinctive things about the film. Actually, the most disturbing thing about this film is that a lot of things you see in the film are real. All the animal deaths, for example, were real. The turtle is particularly graphic, as I noticed that one too.
The pig, at least, was a quick headshot.
Yeah.
That wasn't,
Yeah. The natives forced to eat monkey brains was also real.
Yeah.
Several of the executions were of actual executions. Not knowing what was and wasn't real is what made this movie unique. I more or less enjoyed the first half of the film until the professor came back to civilization and started watching the found movies. The behavior of these 4 top-notch professional filmmakers was just unexplained and ridiculous.
Why would they
These were the top documentarians and anthropologists in their field.
And they had done previous documentaries that were totally legit and top-notch, and suddenly they're barbarians.
Mass murdering, rapists, stealing everything they had.
Storming into the village
Setting
with
the whole
guns
village
blazing,
on fire.
setting them on fire, setting the buildings on fire, and raping the women and killing their animals and
Totally unbelievably over the top.
Well, this is why the villagers killed them, because they were white devils coming into. I mean, they were awful. They were just
So one of the movie executives, in the latter half when they're talking about making a movie, one of the movie executives in the film says, the more you rape their senses, the happier they are. And the professor responds, would you want people to make money off of your misery? And then the two literally debate the merits of exploitation films within the film itself.
Mm-hmm. Within an exploitation film.
And this is one of the earliest found footage movies that I know of. So if you're really into found footage, you should probably take a look at this one. Although it's not always clear who is doing the camera work. There's 4 filmmakers, and sometimes you see all 4 of them in the frame.
Well, no, there were the 4 filmmakers. There was a guide initially with them. He puts his foot in his boot and and that was something too. He puts his foot, without looking in his boot, puts it in, there's a snake in there, bites him. Okay, so he's got this little snake bite on his foot. That hurts. Might be a poisonous snake, I guess. So they grab this huge machete, lop his leg off.
I'm guessing this is not one of the real scenes.
Yeah. And then cauterize it with the red hot blade that they put in the fire. And then he dies. And then they don't have a guide anymore. But they feel bad. They mentioned that, what a great guy he was.
Yeah.
And, well, we should go on, though. And,
So if you like gore and maybe a little too much realism, you'll get a kick out of this.
Sexploitation. There's a lot of full nudity.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for great acting, snappy dialogue, and a logical plot, go somewhere else. Yeah.
So we don't give that one a thumbs up.
No, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're really into that, I can see why it was a big deal at the time. A lot of this stuff, maybe we've seen so much things on, I don't want to say YouTube, but you get on the internet and you watch things, you see a lot of these things. Maybe we're just not as sensitive to it as people in the 70s and 80s were.
Yeah, end of the 70s.
The internet has killed all shocking videos.
Yeah.
Okay. Did we see any short films this week?
We did. We saw one called Turn Around. It's on YouTube, and we recommend that you watch it.
14 minutes long. Nathan and Amber are in the car on their 3rd date, driving to a camping trip. It's gonna be a perfect off-the-grid location. He's very nervous, but she's the confident type. She stops for a pee in the woods and disappears.
With the keys.
He goes looking for her, and bad things happen.
And we're not going to tell you more because we don't want to spoil it.
Nah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Bad
really good.
things.
Really
happen.
well done. Good cinematography, good effects.
Looked very good, looked very
Yeah.
professional. The sound was good. It was shot using real photography. It got a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Thumbs up.
Short, but good.
Yes.
Yeah, liked it.
Yeah, very much.
Also, any other movies that we liked this week?
We saw the Autopsy of Jane Doe. That was really good.
Yeah.
It was refreshing after those other 2 movies.
It's so nice to see
watch
a good
one
movie.
that I really enjoyed.
Starring Brian Cox, Emile Hirsch, and Ophelia Lovibond. 1 hour and 26 minutes. We start out at a murder scene. There are numerous bodies. While investigating, they find an unidentified, naked, half-buried body in the basement. We switch scenes to a father and son coroner team that get along very well. The sheriff brings in the unidentified body, and the autopsy begins.
And hilarity ensues.
Not right away.
There's hints of it.
It's a mystery.
Yeah.
Her eyes are
what killed her?
Her eyes are white, or gray, or blue, or some weird color. Hard to describe.
Yeah, all milkied over.
Her wrists and ankles have been broken.
But she's perfect. She's pristine. She's very beautiful.
She looks like she's just laid down to go to sleep.
Yeah, which actually that was mostly played by a real actress who was just pretending. I mean, that was impressive.
Pretending really good. And that whole movie, she laid there dead and didn't breathe or anything.
Almost all of the scenes of her were a real actress laying there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if you watch the thing, that's kind of impressive.
Yeah, it is.
So her wrists and ankles have been broken, her tongue has been cut out, and that's just the visible stuff.
Yeah, and then they start.
Then they cut her open, and there's some very unusual things about her insides as well.
Organs are all damaged, the lungs are all burned up,
Some things
heart's all scarred up.
that are just impossible. How do you scar up a heart from the inside?
Yeah, things that, but her skin is perfect, immaculate, no scars, no wounds, no signs of anything.
And then there are even worse things inside.
Yeah.
Before they can investigate further, strange things start happening around the morgue.
I love the way
That's all I've got on the story.
I love the way it built.
Yeah.
It starts strange. It's a little unsettling at first, and Dad's being all scientific still, and
the first 45
explanations
minutes
for these things, and then it gets weirder, and
Uh-huh.
we can't explain this, and then it's just absolutely freaky, and then horrific, and
Yeah, the first 45 minutes was like watching a real autopsy.
Mm-hmm.
The father is explaining things to the younger guy, and they're both talking about it, and they're figuring it out and puzzling it out. It's kind of educational almost. I would have watched 2 hours of this.
thinking she was a victim of human trafficking and some sexual violence maybe, and he's got
And they come up with the little clues that they write on the chalkboard, and yeah, it's very good. And then about halfway through, the weird stuff starts happening, and
it overwhelms them, very quickly. Yeah, but we're not going to give spoilers.
so it's creepy and interesting even before the weird stuff starts. The acting and the soundtrack are perfect for this movie all the way through.
Yes, it is.
The setting is dark and interesting. It's yet another morgue.
It's a dark and stormy night.
It is. Yeah. The autopsy was interesting as I learned more and more about what she went through. Mm-hmm. Now, we watched The Possession of Hannah Grace just a few weeks ago, and it's hard not to compare the two.
Yeah.
We liked it a lot. I thought this was better.
I did too.
Now, in Hannah Grace, they were in this big concrete coroner's office underground with the electric lights and the doors, and the setting itself was really creepy. Mm-hmm. This one here is creepy also, but it seems a lot more realistic.
And more intimate.
Every town in the world has a morgue or a funeral parlor like this one. Mm-hmm. It's not a weird castle somewhere like that.
Been there for 3 generations. It's an old farmhouse on the edge of town.
Yeah. And the father and son I thought their interactions were very realistic.
Yeah, their dynamic was great.
Once the craziness begins, the son and the older father, who's seen pretty much everything, they don't really question it too much. They see what's happening and they deal with it. Mm-hmm. They just accept that it's really going on. Usually there's a bunch of denial going on with the characters.
I think that
I don't believe this is happening. This is not real. I'm just not. No.
Well, I think because they are both so science-based, and Dad was always
they'd usually be the last
pushing-
ones to accept a dead thing.
Well, no, I mean,
this is.
accepting the evidence that their senses tell them. And Dad was always railing on the son, because the son was kind of jumping to conclusions a little bit on the cause of death. And it's like, no, just look at the facts right in front of you. And, don't think about these other things, and don't speculate. Look at what you see and what you hear. And, I think
that's right.
I think that helped, yeah. I think it helped him deal with it. But
Okay, so Murders in the Rue Morgue?
no.
Down.
No.
Turnaround?
Yes.
Hannibal
Hannibal Holocaust?
Hannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust.
No, overall a thumbs down.
And The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Like
So if you want to watch one movie this week, go with the Jane
see
Doe.
The Autopsy of Jane Doe if
Yeah.
you haven't. Yeah, very good. Very good.
You hear that?
Vampires are coming back, aren't they?
The sun is coming up. The vampires are starting to shuffle back in for the day, and we need to get going so they can get their sleep.
We need to clear out.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Stop in during the week at horrorbulletin.com for news and horror updates, to comment on this podcast, or to contact us. Check us out on Twitter at @HorrorBulletin. We've just started an Instagram account with Horror Bulletin.
You see a trend here. Horror Bulletin.
And there's a Patreon
Everywhere.
that we're working on. Should be
Patreon?
available in a few days. Don't know what the benefits are yet. We're working on that. Probably might involve, some storybooks. Just a wild thought there.
We're fiction writers, too,
We are.
Yeah.
In case you don't care about Patreon, Tales to Make You Shiver, Volume 1, by me, Brian Schell.
And then I get on.
Tales to Make You Shiver, Volume 2, by Brian Schell, me. And Kevin L. Knight. He.
Yes.
So pick them both up. It's give you 26 good old stories. There's all kinds of stuff in here. Killer clowns, aliens and spaceships, ghouls, giant rats.
Everything.
You lose me
All
with
the
giant
favorites.
rats. Yeah, so check those out.
Classics.
Go to horrorbulletin.com. There's links to everything on there. And again, this is our second video episode. Episode 17 now of the audio show. And, well, if you go to YouTube, check us out. There's episode 16 from last week, and this one is 17. However, we're also working on getting the original ones done. How are we doing that? You're going to have to tune into YouTube and find out.
The magic of technology.
If you go to horrorbulletin.com/videos, that's another way to do it. Like and subscribe on YouTube, or subscribe on iTunes and leave us a review. It's all good for us.
I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian, and we'll see you next week.
See ya.